Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's finish this up with a little chat on the USMNT manager search. We do know that technically Greg is still in charge. He hasn't been let go yet. He's just put on leave or what have you. Um, I don't think anybody out here is still Team Greg. So the question is, where does it go? I think we all know that Jesse Marsh is the name that everybody's been throwing around. But we've got some other names to talk about. And I just did a quick Google search, clicked on a few things that people thought about. Here are the names that popped up: Jim Curtin, Steve Cherundolo, Todd Ramos, in the form of MLS, or rather USMNT historicals, right? Zinedine Zidane, who's definitely out. Joachim Low, Germany's former World Cup winning manager, Marco Bielsa, Jose Mourinho, Tata Martino, Hugo Perez, Tite, Luis Enrique, Pep Guardiola, Mauricio Pochettino, and Carlo Ancelotti are just some of the names I've heard thrown around.
Is there
Anybody
any
there
name that
jump out at
wasn't
you?
thrown around, honestly? I feel like
Let's say
everybody's name
any name that
was thrown
jumps
in
out
there.
at you there. Oh my
I hate to
god.
break it to people. I don't think Pep Guardiola is going to leave Man City to go coach Kellen Acosta in 2026 World Cup.
He might get fired. Might get fired if they were found cheating.
I'm sure he'll go somewhere else before he comes to the U.S.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
I
the
mean
US
that's a
might throw a
long
bag at him.
that's a long list of names, definitely for sure. I
Oh,
would
I missed.
assume that.
Sorry, I missed one.
Which
Brian Schmetzer is also on there.
mm, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you could put Tab Ramos on that list and not have Brian Schmetzer. um, yeah, I mean that's a really long list of names. They were talking about it a little bit last night. I was listening in on. I thought it was an interesting conversation. All right, actually, I can't remember if it was last night or if I was listening to something else, but I was listening to something recently where they were talking about you really gotta go big for 2026 with a manager. Like you gotta, sell the farm, bring in the perfect guy here because this is your run. I mean, hopefully it's not our only shot at one, but I mean like the stars are all aligning here. And one of the few remaining stars that we have to put in place is finding the right manager. The team's going to be hitting their prime. We have home field advantage. Like everything's lining up. So we got to knock it out of the park with the right manager. And it's going to be a tough call. Like I was very much like on board with Jim Curtin being the guy. I mean, he obviously has stated his interest in being the head coach. I mean, he stated that he would be an assistant coach. But I think that kind of shows like how much he really wants to be a part of the team. Which I think would be great from a manager that actually wants to be a part of it, unlike Jesse Marsh, who said he didn't want to be a part of it. But um, yeah, honestly, I kind of was rethinking over that after hearing that, talking a little bit more about like we really got to like go all out for it. And I'm like, is Jim Curtin the guy, like the all out guy that's going to take us to the promised land? I'm not totally sure. I really like Jim Curtin. What do you think? I don't know. I don't think you're super high on Jim Curtin. I mean, I know obviously you're in Jesse's corner. You're a big Jesse Marsh guy for obvious reasons.
What? No. Um, I am a big Jesse Marsh guy. However, I would have had a better feeling if they gave him the opportunity to coach McKinney, Adams, Aronson together. Um, the fact that we're not going to get to see that kind of sucks. I don't see Jim Curtin being number one. I can see him being a really good number two. Like he knows the game really well. He is great at developing young talent, which is something we need in that group. Um, I don't. So I'm. Here's what I'm stuck with. I know that they're going to want to keep it with inside the USMNT family. I can see it being Jesse Marsh getting a bag thrown at him for 2 years to coach, whether he likes it or not. He's going to say, okay, I can't turn down this money. Jim Curtin's going to come along as his assistant. They're going to do something okay. We'll be fine. We'll do more than okay. But I think the real question is, and I'm going to do a quick search here. There are a lot of people who stepped down from their post in U.S. soccer after this whole Greg thing went down. Like Ernie Stewart's gone. Who else stepped down? Who was the other one?
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about though.
It was Ernie Stewart, and it was
McBride.
yes, Brian McBride. Thank you. I knew it was a player. I couldn't think of who it was. So it leaves really Cindy Parlow-Cohn, the U.S. soccer president, in charge, and that's about it. So we really need to put somebody in those positions before we can make this decision, right? We need people who have a vision, a shared vision to create something bigger for the U.S. men's national team before we can just throw somebody in that spot. We know Zidane's out. My guess is Pep Guardiola's out. I don't think Jose Mourinho would come here. I don't want Tata Martino. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want him. He
No,
didn't want to
I
come
don't
to.
either.
He didn't want to come to us. Now it's like, oh, you got fired from Mexico because you sucked in the World Cup. Come here now. Like, no, that's not the look I want for the men's national team.
Yeah.
Luis Enrique or Tite might be intriguing. Tons of talent that they've had underneath them. Very subpar performances in 2018, but I'd be interested to see something like that. I know if we could, and I don't think like Carlo Ancelotti's in the running at all to be lured away from anywhere, but I'd love to see him in there. And then there are names that haven't been mentioned. Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea guy. Sorry, let me rephrase it. I want him nowhere near Christian Pulisic in the men's national team. I don't need Christian Pulisic playing right wing back. But if we are going to go play people out of position, Ben Olsen is very easily hired away from Houston. Like, I'm pretty sure if you say Ben Olsen, we need Christian Pulisic playing right wing back, boom, he's gone. So if that's the way we're going to go, that's where we're going to go. But I think there are more options than just the big names. I would love to see the big names do it, but I think U.S. soccer is going to go, if he wants it, Jesse Marsch, Jim Curtin combo. That's the way I see it go.
I don't really get why Jim Curtin would step away for an assistant role. I mean, he's built like arguably an MLS dynasty here in Philly. If he was going to jump to something else, I would think he would want to jump to either head coach of the USMNT or jump to something in Europe. I can't see why he would leave the project just to take an assistant's role.
It's so an assistant coach is personally being one. You are still making a massive impact on the group. It's just you're not the guy answering the press questions, right? Like you are still there tweaking with game plans and tweaking with film study and trying to find the right answer to all these things and understanding your team. There's so much that goes into it. So it's not he's just going there to sit on the sidelines. He's just not making, and even then he is still making decisions. He's going up to whoever the head coach would be and say, hey, this guy looks gassed, or this analytical reading is saying he's reached his max number of sprints. We got to get him off, right? It's not like he would go and do nothing, but I understand your point. Like you've done so well as a head coach, why take a step down, right? I don't want Tab Ramos anywhere near there either.
No. Steve Trundle is way too small of a sample size to give him the reins for 2026.
Yep.
No.
I completely agree. I don't know. I really want to see what we can do, but I'm going to go back, and this will be our last, at least my last point here. I want to go back to something you said last season, maybe 2 seasons ago for us, about the type of coach we need with the that goes with the players that we have. Greg Berhalter, a good MLS manager, trying to manage high level European based players. They're two different systems, they're two different styles of play. It's not it's not anybody's fault. They just weren't a good fit. And he did a good job. And we've talked about it before with the whole this never happens again. We're going to run through walls. We're going to work hard. We're going to be strong defensively. We're not going to let things happen. We're going to make the World Cup and we're going to get out of the group stage. Great. We did it. Job done. But to get the best out of these players, to get the best out of the players that are playing at the highest level, that are learning at the highest level, you need a coach that understands. Now, I don't know what sort of license that Greggy boy has, but there's a massive difference between the US soccer A license or the pro license and the UEFA pro license. They're two very, very different licenses because they teach two very, very different things. And just saying that, you need to be able to understand the style of play that they are to get the best out of them. He does have his UEFA A, it says. So he supposedly understands that, I guess, from when he worked in Sweden all those years ago. But I don't feel confident with somebody in the MLS pool coming out. I think Jesse Marsh might not be a great fit for them. You know, I don't know if his high press, Gegenpress, Red Bull energy drink style soccer fits this team. Do I think he can be more adaptable than Greggy did? Yes. I think he's smart enough to be adaptable and play football in a different way, especially with Jim Curtin as an assistant. But is it time that we look at somebody international? Do we look at somebody, Klingsman was the last international guy we had. What do we look at him again? Not again, sorry, but do we look at something like that? We bring somebody in from the outside with different ideas that can get different things out of our players, right? We've tried the US based system for so long. What can we do differently?
Jurgen was like the opposite problem that we were having now, where it was just like all MLS team, but a European style like coach. And I feel like the
No,
tactics were all of I feel like the tactics were all over the place. You had people playing like way out of position. But the one thing I feel like I remember from his time in charge was I feel like he was pretty good at recruiting guys to play for the US team. Like good potential between like Germany and the US kind of situations.
yeah. Um, yeah, he had good connection with the German Americans, but you mentioned that whole thing about mainly MLS teams. I mean, I'm looking at this 2014 World Cup roster that he took. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players out of the 23-man roster were MLS players. Everybody else was outside of MLS. So
How many of those guys outside of MLS though played a number of years in MLS or got their roots in MLS?
um
Because I mean, I don't know if we can compare. So, like if Ali Bedoya was still at like Nantes, like actually I don't remember where Bedoya started. I don't know if Bedoya
he
started
was,
in
yeah,
MLS.
he didn't, I don't think he started in MLS, but I'm
I feel
looking
like
here,
he didn't either.
not many players started in MLS. I mean, Tim Howard did. He was a Project 40 kid.
Mhm.
John Brooks didn't. Jeff Cameron might have. So a couple of them, but again, they had most of their experience overseas. So now we've got most of these kids who are MLS making the jump, learning that style at a young age, and now coming back in the prime of their careers, knowing this style for the last 4 years. This is where we need somebody who can make that impact with the European style, I think. This isn't because we don't really have a big mix, right? You're looking at the top 25 guys. they're all overseas. You've got maybe one or two MLS guys that might break in there at any given moment. But the majority of our players are all overseas guys. It might be time to go international, and that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Maybe a Bielsa, maybe a Enrique. Luis Enrique would be a really cool shout. He's available too. He left Spain.
Yeah, I would definitely be on board with that one. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to like how we talk about Greg and his tactics being very MLS, and I feel like one of the things that we were pretty good at as a team under Greg was being pretty like disciplined defensively. Obviously, our issue was in the attack. I mean, we were absolutely dreadful in the attack. But if you look at the players that were starting majority of games for us and where they played previously, our like core defensive triangle, the double center back goalkeeper split was like MLS, either MLS started, MLS current, or like previously played in MLS. Like they definitely I think they understood what Greg was probably going for versus the attack, which was like Sargent, Pooley, Gio, Weah, who've never done anything in MLS.
Right.
I feel
No.
like that's probably where you see like his system worked with the guys that understood MLS to an extent. I'm not saying it was perfect or anything, obviously, but the attacks was dreadful because these guys don't play that style of play, which is why I agree with you. I think that we should look for something international so then we can like, I think by 2026, so many of these guys are going to be in Europe or having been playing in Europe for years at that point. So I think we should get someone who's going to build a system to support that rather than just go with a guy that has good connections with the soccer federation.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Like I said, I think of all the takes you've put on this show in the last 142 episodes, that take has always been your best. I think you got a really good handle on that. So I'm on board with you.